Hey everyone, and welcome to Voices of Hope. I'm Ross Wilsey.
And I'm Mike Wade.
Each episode, we sit down to talk about what it means to live well, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and beyond.
We'll look at how wellness shapes us as individuals, families, communities, and even the wider world around us.
Through real stories and honest conversations, we'll explore what hope looks like and how it grows right here in the New River Valley.
Thanks for joining us. This is Voices of Hope.
Chris McKlarney is the epitome of what a public servant should be. As the longtime administrator for Giles County, a small rural community in Southwest Virginia, Chris has proven time and time again that he is more than willing to roll up his sleeves and lead by example. Whether he's coordinating response to historic natural disasters or lending a compassionate ear to persons in recovery, McKlarney is intentional about making the most of his days by helping those around him do the same. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us. For anyone out there who's listening and really has no earthly idea about Giles County, can you give us your best elevator pitch for the place where you've spent the majority of your professional career?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing I love to talk about. Giles County is an amazing community in Southwest Virginia, a relatively small population, 17,000 people. We are in a county with beautiful and amazing natural resources. About a third of our county is national forest, and so that allows for some amazing views. It's mountainous terrain. Elevations range from about 4,400 feet in elevation down to about 1,500. So there's 37 miles of the New River in Giles County, which is one of the most scenic rivers, at least in the East, if not in America. There's 63 miles of the Appalachian Trail, so that sets the tone for a beautiful place to live. It's rural by nature. People here are amazing. They get up and go to work every day. I call them farm smart. There's a lot of people who have a regular job and then they'll farm on the side. And, I think that and kids grow up farming and being around that. So I think that gives them an upper hand when it comes to problem solving in life. And so they all grow up learning how and knowing how to do things and do things with their hands. And they have a lot of grit, but probably the best part about them is how much they love one another, take care of one another. Just so easy to get support for any kind of programming here that involves kids or elderly, senior projects. It's just incredible how people just turn out for that. So great place to raise kids. Crime rate essentially zero. Like all rural America, we have our problems. Opioids and other things have brought problems and issues to the community, but in general, this is a wonderful place to live, wonderful place to raise children and to grow old.
Well, as the one Giles County native in the room, you've sold it pretty well, Chris. It's like you've done this a few times.
Yes, sir. Well, it's easy to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great place.
So let's turn the clock way back.
Okay.
And talk about how you first came to Giles County.
Sure. Yeah. I started in Giles County. I grew up in Monroe County, West Virginia, literally just across the border. Had a lot of family that lived in Giles. Went to college. Went to work for a company actually in Texas. Came back here and took a job in Glenland on the fly ash landfill, which is actually a subject of a lot of discussion today, is that ash field is about to be relocated. It's an enormous project. But I came here and went to work for a company called HC Nutting, which was a geotech company. And from there, my grandmother told me about a job posting that was available for a town engineer in Pearisburg. And so my background, civil engineering. And so I went and applied for a job with the town of Pearisburg, got that job. Was there about 9 months, and the county needed a county engineer. And so ended up in that position and was there, did that for about 3 years. The county administrator left, and they asked me to step into an interim role. Did that for about a year. Another county administrator came in. I think he was here 2 years. He left, and I stepped in as an interim role, and I've been doing it ever since. So that's kind of how I got here and how things progressed to what I do today. Certainly never set out with the intention of being an administrator, but that's how things go in life sometimes.
Well, I'd assume you've probably had opportunities to go elsewhere, and you've maybe turn those down.
Yeah, I couldn't really imagine myself going anywhere else. This community has been so good to me. I love to see it grow and thrive, and whatever good that we've been able to do over the past 31 years. I couldn't imagine doing that anywhere else. A lot of loyalty. People here have been really exceptionally good to me, accepting, and developed some amazing relationships over the years. And so, I couldn't imagine going anywhere else.
It sounds like great reasons to stay.
Yes, sir.
So we're recording this episode in November of 2025, and it's been a little over a year now since Hurricane Helene came through and caused some pretty significant damage with flooding here in Giles County. Can you first talk about the impact that Hurricane Helene had on this community? And then secondly, as you look back, maybe in thinking about the response and the cleanup efforts, what stood out to you the most?
Sure. Yeah. Helene obviously had devastating impacts in Giles County. About 40 people lost their homes, or 40 families lost their homes. And that's not a big number when you look at what happens on a national scale. Sometimes you see disasters all over the world and some of the problems and things that happen. And, you think, what's 40 homes? 40 homes in a community of 17,000 people is a big deal.
Right.
And when one person loses a home in a fire or another disaster, it's a big deal. When 40 lose them all at the same time, it's devastating. And so beyond the loss of homes, we were very fortunate we did not have loss of life. Our emergency services department and John Butler, who's our emergency service coordinator, along with all of the first responders and EMS folks, really got out and did a great job letting people know, look, this is what's going to happen. River's going to crest at historic levels, even though it crested much earlier than the National Weather Service predicted, nearly 18 hours earlier. People had still been warned, and again, there was no loss of life, which is a testament to some really good work that was done by those individuals. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so very proud of them for what they did. But the ensuing flooding just really devastated anything that was within the 100-year floodplain. Not only were the 40 homes destroyed, but the debris field that was created from all the flooding that occurred in North Carolina and everything upstream of Giles, all the RVs, campers, and tanks, and decks, and things that were, brought into the river, they were distributed all along the banks, in particular on the islands. We have places still that we have not gotten to clean up yet, where debris piles are, 50, 60 feet high and cover, half an acre. So, there's still a lot of work to be done, but really the personal loss that individuals suffered was the thing that we wanted to address first. And so when it happened, it was literally a matter of hours when people saw what was going on. So, all my staff's here, they're all at work. I'm like, what are we going to do? What's the plan? So right away, we started working on, let's find these people housing. And so we got on the phone, talked to the individuals, met with them, where they were, and then started calling people who had rental properties. Our board of supervisors immediately said, we got to help. We got to get them in housing. And this is long term. The answer to this is not a shelter. While we did activate shelters, that wasn't a long-term solution. And so we made the community aware of what was going on, and we were able to secure rental housing for all these individuals in very short order, within a week or so. Our board of supervisors paid their first couple of months of rent and their utilities, to get them up and go on their feet. And when we made the community aware, these people lost everything, their clothes, their shoes, they have nothing. The outpouring of support locally, and when I say locally, Giles County first, but then the New River Valley, and then the Roanoke Valley, and then just nationwide. It was incredible, the resources that were just poured into here in a matter of a week. We had literally tractor trailer loads of stuff that was coming here. Really impressive that people care that much. It's, people can say what they want about our country and the state of our country, but when that happened, I got to see the best of people, and it was touching, to say the least. And to see people in our own community reach out and house these individuals who lost homes, they just took them in, took them into their homes. Churches took them in, and they took care of them. And you know, the amount of money, I guess over the course of 2-3 weeks, we raised $160,000 in cash on top of all of the donations. I don't think that we ever added it up, but you know, it had to be $750,000 to $1 million probably raised in goods and services, and you know, just things that were donated. Just an incredible effort, and it's just another testament to what I said in the beginning of this interview, is that this is a great place to live. Right. People care about one another. They love one another. It's a unique environment for sure. And I'm sure it exists a lot of places, but it exists in a big way here. But I have to say, in this disaster, you know, the state stepped up in a huge way. In a matter of 48 hours, obviously Delegate Ballard was here. You know, he was all over it. He was trying to bring resources, and did bring resources to the table. VDEM's chief, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management chief, was here. The governor was here. And then Senator Kane was here. Senator Warner was here. You know, Morgan Griffith was here. Morgan came and worked with folks, you know, literally picking up trash and cleaning up debris from people's homes and what have you. And I saw all those guys work together, which was really unique to see that. And they sat at the table and said, and we got to get money in here. And they were talking to each other on the phone, which is great. You know, I'm riding them around in vehicles, showing them damage, and they're on the phone, you know, and you don't see that side of things. You assume these guys don't communicate. They communicate.
Well, that's not good for ratings.
No, that's right. That's not good for ratings at all, but they do communicate, and they did it. They couldn't ask for more. They spent a lot of time here, and they were reaching out constantly. The Virginia Disaster Assistance Fund, in my history, you know, 31 years, I've never seen anything like that before, where the state is literally funding the shortfall of insurance and FEMA. You know, they're going to just take care of folks. Yeah. And it doesn't matter about income levels. It's, listen, we're going to fix these problems. Whatever you didn't have covered, we're going to cover through the Disaster Assistance Fund. And that's all state funded. So I have nothing but good things to say about this administration and really both sides of the aisle and how they handled the flooding. So.
Well, shifting gears a little bit, for several years now, you've been actively involved with the county's efforts to support individuals impacted by substance use disorder, including the Recovery Court program. Can you talk a little bit about why this kind of work matters to the community as a whole, and also why it might mean so much to you personally?
Sure. Yeah, I back up a little bit and talk about kind of where this started, and you guys are familiar with, but the listeners may not. We have a circuit court judge here named Lee Harrell, and this has really become Lee's passion in his life, is helping people in addiction. And so he quickly sold me on the idea. The recovery court process, he asked me to come to recovery court one day. I sat in court with him. We sat down and had a good conversation afterwards. And he said, you know, I think we can do some good things here. He said, I'm going to need your support. I'm going to need the county's support. And, you know, you hear those things all the time. And so we were looking for ways that we could not only do what had been done, but maybe look to do some new things. And so he asked me, well, I don't know what day of the week it was. He said, on Saturday, we're going to go over and take everybody in recovery court to a CrossFit workout. And he said, I'd love for you to go. I'd just like to expose you to this. I said, okay, we'll go. So we went to a CrossFit gym in Withville. And when it was over, when the workout was over, and it was a brutal workout, you know, everybody, in fact, I think all of the participants threw up.
Oh, wow.
And I was close. And when it was over, we knew we had something right away, not because people were throwing up, but because of the attitudes that changed just during the workout. You could see the trust that was developed literally in an hour. Like, the judge is here working out with us. Like, what's going on? And this guy from the county, why are they here? And so there was interaction on the drive to Withville and on the way home. And I was amazed. I drove the participants. And they were like, I can't believe we did this. And, you know, they were proud of what they'd done, you know, that they got through a workout, And, people in addiction in particular, by the time they get to a recovery court process, they're usually broken. And so they need something positive in their life and something that's reassuring. And so to get a win like that was big. And we came back, and Judge Harrell and I sat down and had a conversation. And he said, well, what did you think? And I said, well, we got to keep doing this. I don't know how, but we got to keep doing this, because it was obvious the connection was made between myself and these individuals, and I think between you and these individuals. And, that I think that, as with everything in life, relationships, right? Strength, trust, that's where progress is made. Right. So anyway, we got through the process, and Lee said, I have to call him Lee, he's become a good friend, but he said, Judge Harrell said, I think we should start incorporating this into our regular recovery court program. And he said, where can we do this? And I said, we don't have a gym. We've got, we actually do have a wellness center, but I'm not sure how that's going to play. And, and he said, well, if we could get some weights, he said, let's just do it in the courtroom. I think it makes sense to have workouts there. Okay. So we did. And we started having workouts there. And from that, that interaction that I had with the individuals, I think really it changed my view and opinion of those individuals and the programming and what we're doing for substance use and recovery. I was like, this is good stuff. I would have told you prior to that, I was probably one of those folks that said, just lock people up, that jail was the answer. And sometimes it still is the answer. No question. I'm not just sold on you, just let everybody, walk away from whatever crimes they've committed at all. In fact, I'm probably on the other side of that spectrum. But individuals who are in addiction, jail is useful for drying them out, giving them a time to get away, detoxing. But beyond that, right, they need help. Addiction is not something you overcome by yourself very often. People do it, but in most cases, addiction requires a community to help somebody through the process. And so as I saw us start to have some success in the recovery court program, I was like, wow, this is good. If we could do more of this and have more people involved, because we saw lots and lots of people going to the jail. The regional jail was loaded at the time with individuals. Our regional jail bill at the time was approaching $1 million a year. And in a small community, $1 million a year is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, it was we started to look at some other diversionary programming, and we already had a day report program, which was a diversionary type sentencing program. And so we started to refine that a little bit. It started to grow. And, today, and a lot of this, there's a number of reasons. It's not all because of these programs that we have, but today our regional jail bill is just over $500,000 a year. So that's a big difference. I think where we are today is light years from where we were 7 years ago. 7 years ago, we were really flying by the seat of our pants. We didn't have a facility. We didn't really have a staff to do this. Some of the opioid abatement funding has allowed us to provide transportation services. We have a day one center now where individuals can go that are in justice involved individuals can go for treatment. They can also go there. We have a gym in that location. They can go there for workouts that are required. They're now required 3 days a week. There's also a peer center there operated by New River Valley Community Services. And so individuals can walk in off the street. That was never an option previously. There was nowhere for people to go back even a year ago. An individual in addiction who didn't have good insurance or was independently wealthy, there was not an option for them to try to come through their addiction without just doing it on their own. And we know that doesn't usually end well. So today they can walk in off the street, they can go to the peer center, they can be connected to services. We can do an evaluation of where they are, determine what services are needed, connect them with those services, and then also provide all the wraparound services that are needed. When people are in addiction, more often than not, whenever they figure out that they've got to do something, typically they're at rock bottom. Either they've been arrested or they literally have lost everything. They're homeless, they have no money. they're starving, their health is in horrible decline. And so they're at rock bottom and they don't have anything, right? So you don't just say, hey, we're going to provide you some services, some counseling services, and all of a sudden we're going to fix your addiction problems. Well, they have to eat, they have to have housing, they have to have transportation, people have to live. And so, you can say, well, show me the numbers. And sometimes that's hard. Well, not sometimes, it's always hard to quantify what success you're having, because you either base it on, how many overdoses are you having? How many incarcerations do you have? That's not good metrics for determining success in someone's life. What we see is daily progress, monthly progress in individuals' lives that are reuniting families, that these individuals are getting jobs, and they're not just working. They're then wanting to develop careers, and they're taking, their different career paths, and they're going to college. Their community colleges work with us, and in most cases we're able to provide an education at no cost to these individuals. And so, we're seeing a lot of those folks take advantage of that, and then they're going into the workforce, and some of them are developing businesses. And I have some really close friends now who went through the program, and I just, to watch them, where they came from and where they are today. They have families and businesses, and they've got employees working for them. It's about it's no question, it's one of the best things I've been involved with during my career.
Absolutely. So aside from your work with the recovery community, as you look back on your career, what else are you proud of?
Well, if I've done anything right, I would say I've learned to hire well because, and hiring is part of the process. That makes or breaks you as an organization. And so, I'm proud of the staff that we've developed here. And that's not all. I have a board of supervisors that's extremely supportive. They have their ear to the ground. They know people in the community. And, when we go through the hiring process, they know a lot about individuals, about families in the community. And so they're always sharing information with me. They never overstep their bounds. They're great. They always look at me and say, personnel's your job, you figure it out, and which is good. That's the way you want it. But so we've hired well, like I mentioned it earlier, and this is 3 times now. This staff that I work with is so good, and I guess that's probably that we've assembled something here really special, I think. So that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of.
What are some of the most significant challenges that you're seeing in the county right now?
I would say some of the most significant challenges we're seeing are related to housing and having enough people to do the work that's here. Housing's a problem all over America, and we all see it. Housing pricing is probably the bigger issue than the housing numbers. I think prices have elevated over a period of 5 or 6 years, whereby it is really difficult, and it's going to be more and more difficult for young people to own a home. That's a real challenge in Giles County. I think it's a challenge everywhere, is to be able to bring enough people here, one, to have enough houses for our young people to stay here, but then the ability to bring people here. New River Valley has unbelievable resources and potential for growth and development. Companies want to be in a place like this. I mean, it's besides all of the beauty, natural beauty that's here, all the things I talked about for Giles County that make it great. You've got the same in surrounding counties. So people want to be here because industry and business wants to locate where the talent is and where talent wants to be. And so that used to not be what drove things. That's 100% what drives business and industry decisions today. If the infrastructure is there, then the next thing they look for is, do people want to live here, and can we recruit people into this area? Well, the answer is absolutely yes for the New River Valley. But where are they going to live?
Well, we're going to switch gears yet again. Well, we know you work out with the Recovery Court program on a regular basis, but in addition to that, what are some ways that you maintain your own personal wellness?
I love the outdoors. So that's still a passion of mine. And I try to spend as much time outside as I can. This job's pretty demanding. But it's, anytime I get an opportunity to be outside, I do that. So that, from a mental health standpoint, that helps me more than anything. But I think just from a personal wellness, I think you've got to, at least an hour a day, you have to take an hour to, I think, push yourself. I tell people in our recovery court program, you got to grind every day. I think you got to work out some form. You got to push your heart a little bit. I think you need to try to maintain the muscle as best you can. I think you need to move heavy things. I'm a firm believer in that from a longevity standpoint, you need to push yourself. And it's easy in these jobs to not do that because, they're demanding. You're at work a lot. You're in a lot of meetings. You set a lot during the day, and it's easy to go home and just say, I want to away from all that, and we'll sit here in my chair and enjoy things. But long term, that's not good for your health at all. So it's, I think your personal wellness is really incredibly important. Your mental health, but just your personal fitness. I tell everybody that'll listen, I think one of the greatest gifts you can give your kids is good health, right? So your kids aren't taking care of you. You're still capable. And I've got 2 grandbabies now, and the ability to take care of them, play with them, and, long term, that's something I want to be able to do long term. And I think that's an important aspect of your life. And I believe your fitness, your wellness really impacts the quality of your work too. Mm-hmm. If you're not fit, if you're not capable, and you don't feel good, your energy level drops. And let's face it, your personal energy is what makes or breaks you. It's what decides how far you're willing to push. Are you willing to make the effort? I tell people all the time, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be gifted with a lot of talent. But if you're willing to work hard, you can make just about anything work, but you got to have energy to do that.
Well, Chris, what is one thing people might be surprised to learn about Chris McKlarney?
That's a great question. I would say people would be surprised to know my passion for the outdoors, bow hunting in particular. I love to hunt. That's really been a passion for me for a long time. They'd probably be surprised to know what a softy I am, particularly with my grandchildren. I play a hard role with some folks in our recovery court. I could talk about tough love a lot, but if you see me with my grandbabies, you'd say, it's this guy. And one of the things I try to do every day is practice gratitude, and when I wake up in the morning, first thing I try to do every day is just think of some things I'm grateful for. And gosh, the list never stops. And I think the perspective with which we approach life, if we are grateful, we have a grateful mindset, it changes our perspective. And we probably don't complain about things that are unimportant, that don't really matter. And it's so much about life doesn't matter.
It affects everything you do throughout the day.
Oh, it affects your life, your health. Everything is impacted by the perspective with which you see your surroundings and the people around you. It's easy to get upset and gripe and complain. I find myself doing that. We'll have a tough week or a month, or, Hurricane Helene wore us all out. I'll be honest with you. Everybody here was putting in 60, 70 hours a week, just nonstop, 7 days a week for months on end, and burn you out. You see people and you want to complain about stuff, but at the end of the day, man, we are incredibly blessed to live here and the people we have around us. And it's just, I think every day reminding ourselves of all the stuff that we have to be grateful for is so important. And it's easy to miss that, and kindness and the grace too. As I look back on my life, you asked me a question earlier, I look back on my career, the grace people have given me just personally. I've done stupid things and done, made a lot of mistakes in my career, and just a lot of people extended that grace, undeserved for sure. And we forget that. We forget to do that to others. Right. We talk to our recovery court participants about this all the time, that relationships and restoration of broken relationships and developing new ones is what that's what gives life its meaning. And when you learn to do that, and the older I get, the more I reflect on those things. You become more reflective. I was speaking at a conference recently. I said, I don't know why, as you get older, you want to share wisdom with people. I think you sense that the end is near, and maybe you need to get it out, right? But relationships, if you can learn to develop and cultivate those, man, I wish I knew 30 years ago what I know today. And everybody says that, but Psalm says, I think Moses actually said it, help me to number my days. And really, we just don't have that many days on this earth. Life expectancy, call it 71, 73. It depends on what numbers you look at. That's not a lot of days. When you actually break it down in days that you're alive, I'm 53 now. So, say I got another 20 years, 7,200 days. 7,200 days is not a lot of time left.
Break it down like that.
Yeah, it's really not. And so every day is important, and the ability to maintain those relationships and develop new ones. And, I just think we overlook that so often. And in management roles and leadership roles, it's more important for us to do it than for anyone else. And it gets down to caring about people. And I guess for me, just understanding that I'm grateful for all of these blessings that have been piled upon me for whatever reason, right? We talked about earlier, I was born in a bathtub, which is, didn't expect that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with amazing parents who were kids themselves. And you don't really appreciate that until you get older. So I think the gratitude that comes along is you reach whatever this is, this age that I've come to here, close to the end of my career, you reflect back on all the stuff that you've had these opportunities at, and you're like, wow, how did that ever happen? How did I end up in Giles County doing what I'm doing? Well, just a lot of grace, right? So, but enough of that. That's I've had a really good run here, and so a lot of good people to thank for that.
Well, Chris, you've been incredibly generous with your time, and we are so grateful for you taking the time to sit down and talk with us. We know how busy of a guy you are, so we're honored to have you on as a guest for our podcast. And
I think it's a great idea that you're garnering wisdom from people that have been around and are doing things. I don't know why you picked me, but there's a lot of good people in the New River Valley and the region who are doing just amazing work in the community. And I think going out and interviewing those folks and getting their stories that's a great idea. Good news, hearing good stuff. People want that, and they need that in their lives. We hit lots of negative stuff, right? I saw a study recently that said your phone on average goes off about 85 times a day. Some form or notification comes to you 85 times a day, and so we get numb to bad news, and we don't take the time to look at that stuff. So,
well, we're here for the good stuff.
Yes, you are, and I love it.
Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for listening to Voices of Hope.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to rate and review the podcast and help us spread the word.
Voices of Hope is a production of New River Valley Community Services.
To learn more or listen to past episodes, visit nrvcs.org/podcast.
And remember, hope grows when we share it.
So keep the conversation going, and we'll talk to you next time on Voices of Hope.